when we were talking about this and how to go about it, you know, the issue we were looking at was really mapping where things are now and where things stand and where our differences are. And we came up with 4 categories where we're all using the same symbol with the same meaning, where we're all using the same symbol but we have different meanings for it, where we have the same concept but different symbols. Should be symbol here. Yeah, if you look at C, it says same concept, different meaning. It should say same concept, different symbol. And then we just did a little catch-all other. For example, if we have a concept that no one has come up with a good symbol for yet, that we need a symbol for.
Can there be another category that includes the specific needs of a particular aspect?
Yeah. That could go under other.
Yeah, like the needs of a log-on notation score are very different from motif, but maybe there is crossover, maybe there won't be.
And then there are all those separate little sets of symbols that just go along with certain applications too. That's all under other.
That could be other too. We made other a catch-all for all these kinds of things. And we'll just specify what we mean when we get to it.
There's a lot of one.
And then if we...
Could you succinctly say what you said the special need that you were concerned about was again?
Well, the reason I'm here is in my notation scores, I'm coming up against motif. And right here, there's things coming up in notation scores that require motif, but it's a different usage, different application, thank you, than what's maybe happening when we're just talking motif.
Yeah, special needs are notating specific scores, is that it?
Or just use in log-on notation scores and build scores.
Application.
Specifically in regards to notated dance routes.
But this gets back to what Tina was saying, how our various applications affect what our use of, or how motif notation evolves. And is there an overall standard? And then you derivate from that. Or the issue is some people, I'm playing devil's advocate, but some people feel that there should be a different motif notation system for each application. And that's another.
Oh, good Lord, that would be a lot.
But, so what is the standard then? Is this standard then going to be designed for example, in log-on notation, and the log-on notation can record any kind of movement that it evolves. The standard is evolved for as an application primarily for theatrical dance. And then, anyway.
I think we are talking about glossaries for a score where I'm using this symbol note. It seemed to bore to me this, that there's a specialized glossary. Right. Something like that.
But what is the default?
Well, that's what we're here to decide what is the
and what should it be designed, what application should it be designed for? That's why I think a lot of us have so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the purpose of that's the purpose of the sharing. I mean, that's why we're coming together, because I don't think that we can make decisions until we really have a generous reference of.
We have it mapped. What's happening?
We don't even know. I mean, I certainly don't know what everybody's doing around this table, and I want to know because I want to be able to speak to that, and I can't do that.
Or saying as Sandra said, yes, but if I'm using a score, this is my needs. So this is the way that we're or using it for whatever. This is why the symbol is being used in that way.
There's kind of 2 areas. There's symbology, and there's application and usage. And in order to get the mapping, we felt it needed to be comprehensive. And we were starting with the symbology and then moving into the usage and the application.
Something that Peggy Hackman brought up too when we were talking a couple of weeks ago was she made the distinction between using notation to be prescriptive and then using notation to be descriptive. And I thought that was such a lovely distinction about, are we putting something out for people to interpret in creative ways, or are we using notation to represent something that we're seeing? And because of the nature of motif, what hits my eye may not be the same as what hits somebody else's eye. So I think there inherently is a bit of flexibility in it, although I think that some things, you know, if you see a turn, it's not going to be perceived as a fault, but
there's also
is that turn reflection?
There's also a third that you're not considering too, and that is for research, for gathering data, which is the way that we teach using motif at the Raw Institutes. It's not just prescriptive or descriptive, it's also data gathering.
But Jackie, that could be descriptive though, because you're trying to describe what you're seeing and
The
what you
data.
gather.
Okay.
But we still have to look at how people are using it before we even know what we mean by descriptive.
Yes, well, that's true.
Do you want to take a minute and look at how people are using it before we go into the symbols?
What? Just have people go in and talk about it.
You can put on the board, just the different ways it's being used.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Before we get into the symbols, maybe we should just make a list I can write on the board of the different ways it's being used. Just to kind of get an idea of maybe some of the different ways it's being used. Jackie said one, which was data gathering. Sandra said using it in structured scores.
Documentation.
For preserving move, I mean, that goes further than that, doesn't it? Using it in structured, but what is the purpose of the score? To preserve the movement. Do you know what I'm saying?
This is not a whiteboard marker.
For preserving dance.
Right. I think I'm interested in the kind of generic, general overall.
What else?
Creative improvisation.
Teaching choreography, teaching and analyzing.
And I'd like to say that when I do those last two things and I work with young children, it's different application almost than when it's used for older kids and adults. Each group, they're almost different applications in my experience.
I would have said teaching movement. Yes, choreography, composition, basic movement.
They're different.
Is that different than teaching dancing?
Using it for teaching movement and teaching choreography like night and day.
They're different
Oh, yes.
applications.
And
You said with children, with adults, and you had a third one, students?
Older children, you know.
Teens, college.
It's a whole different.
It's not so much
Young
about what
adult.
you're teaching, but it's how you're teaching.
Yeah.
yes.
The
Those
content
groups.
basically stays the same, but it's how you approach it. is slightly
Exactly.
different.
Well, the
Yeah.
notation almost has to be, I adapt it because it's,
Sure.
adapt the symbols actually, change the symbols just because.
And did you mean teaching movement is different than teaching dance movement?
No, but movement is more general, dance becomes a bit more specific.
Teaching technique and teaching teachers.
Is that dance technique?
Teaching dance technique.
Then I'd like to add teaching other kinds of movement techniques.
Right, I was thinking about
And
working with everyday movement.
Yeah.
And sports and.
Great.
Teaching history and
Can I
analyzing.
say non-dance? Or how do I make the general?
Maybe Anne's already got it under movement, really, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got teaching movement over there.
Yeah.
Now, what did you just say, Janis?
I was thinking of more everyday movement, pedestrian movement activities.
Like analyzing, using it for
It's
to
comparative
analyze
studies,
and
Developing
So things comparative studies?
No,
It's sort of like analyzing.
Comparative studies?
Sort of like intakes when you're looking at somebody to do what you're going to do with them. Is that what you're talking about?
diagnosis.
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 That's what I want to get at.
And kind of going with that, I've been using the motif notation
I don't think so at all.
with the kids, but this would be overall as a tool to reinforce observations, to help with your observation skills.
Teaching audience.
I'm sorry,
Teaching audience.
teaching audience.
And
It says history and analysis.
teaching, right, like Kris, right.
Yeah.
Informing. Well, it's actually more informing an
Yeah,
audience
you
how
have
to
teaching.
look. It's not, you're not teaching them, you're informing them how to observe.
But you're teaching the
Let's
students.
get to the dance, the dance rises.
There you go.
Yeah, it's the next step.
There you go.
I swear to God.
Let's invite them.
For who? For the dance critics? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I've been dying to do that for
Go
years.
to a dance critics conference and they put their hand up, they want a list of words to describe what they're seeing.
But they don't, but they refuse,
But they refuse to even, they refuse to even consider the Lama system.
Next year in Los Angeles, 3 critic associations are coming together. Next year in Los Angeles.
So they need a basic.
3 critic associations are coming together.
Introductory
we should
course.
aim for that.
It's
Tools of their trade.
Yes.
That they don't have. Tools of their
Who's
trade.
coming together in Los Angeles?
3 critic
What is dance
associations.
critics?
Three conferences in Los Angeles, what's that?
In Los Angeles, there is the Dance Critics Association is coming together, the Drama Critics Association is coming together, and I'm not sure what the third one is now off the top of my head, but 3 large,
All at the same time?
all at the same time in Los Angeles.
From all across America or just
All
LA?
across America. I think it's June or July.
Have they already finished the call to papers?
I don't think so.
I know a couple, I know a couple of
2005.
people I could talk to from the Dance Critics Association to find out who to talk
You just Google Dance Critics Association.
to. No, but you need to find out who is the one that's doing the program for the conference.
Oh, okay.
And I have a couple of people I could talk to who could tell me who that person is.
Oh, wow.
I have another idea, it just occurred to me, something that Tina did a project and Sheila Marion did with her yoga thing and the idea of recording alongside of a structured score using motif writing as a way of clarifying a style analysis. It's making a style analysis and showing in notation what is embedded in notation score.
Right, she did a lot of those.
And Tina did a whole wonderful project
Did you
that
do
way.
those too?
I did one as a lead up to a lava notation score.
Right,
So
but it's
breaking it.
before,
Yeah.
looking at it and saying this is what the score says.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 kinds of things with a structured score. There's what you're talking
Right.
about, and there's using it within the score to actually be conveying information.
Exactly.
And then there's also sometimes motif effort or shaping that goes with the structure.
So I would say that's part of motif
Within.
notation or
Within-
lava notation, but that's my own.
Me too.
I would agree.
I'm going to go
Big
back to
old
that
computer.
again, / research, because I really mean that in terms of, like Martha Davis's research, even though she doesn't use
Yeah.
the notation symbols, but that's what I mean.
Well, she has.
She uses some.
She has.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah. Effort, if you want.
Well, the effort, but I was.
Whatever.
Yeah, probably.
I was talking to a group of anthropologists last night, and they were asking about dance notation, and I was telling them about how to notate the what and how to notate the how, and boy, you might need to look at presenting at an anthropology conference.
So here's
Seriously,
a person
they
who's
were
real
so
and
interested.
Brenda
Yeah,
Wetter.
labs that are.
What's Brenda, Dan, okay. She wrote, what's her name? Farnell? No, you don't hold whether it's
Brenda Farnell?
Yeah. No, who wrote those books? They're called Dance. She was an anthropologist, and she.
Sally Allen.
No.
Brenda Farnell?
Is that those books? It's Farnell who did them. She has used used motif notation, not necessarily in the way that that's
I don't know
standardized.
which books you.
Look, during the lunch.
Brenda Farnell did the American Indian sign, but she.
There you go. Yes.
But it wasn't motif. She used structured notation, a little different, but it's not motif, it's full.
Okay, there's a whole, you know those books that she wrote? Anyway, it's another topic, we'll go on. I'll look it up, tell you.
So what was the topic that I should get on the board? Did you add something, you want something on the board, Charlotte?
No, they were talking about anthropology but it's another application.
That would come under
Cultural studies.
History analysis.
Comparative studies, cultural studies.
Cultural.
This list is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this list alone, I think, shows the convergence that the different entry points that motif provides. And it's a pretty phenomenal list that is all over the dance field. Not just teaching and performing. That's pretty exciting.
We should also keep in mind that lava notation scores can also be used in all of these.
Yes.
So.
Anything else for this list? So then our concept of starting the mapping, we wanted to be thorough, comprehensive. And we thought if we just started throwing out things that were our particular, one person was aware of this one thing or that one thing, we would miss things. So our idea was to start by going through some of the literature and looking at the symbols and coming to agreement whether we all are using the same symbol with the same meaning, but we have different meaning for it, a different symbol. And what we were going to do was write them up on the Post-it notes and put it on this chart, and then that way later if something comes out and we need to move it, it'll be easy to move to a different column. So,
I'm going to
Jimmyle
need to be on this side since we're changing roles.
was going to just continue to take notes, and you and I can do this.
Oh, okay. How are you guys doing? Does anybody need a potty break?
Yeah.
Can we take a potty break?
Okay. Take
Kris, would you like to change the
5-minute potty break, and then we can kind of decide where we're starting.
Took a quick glance through all of the Valerie Preston Dunlop material that Ilene had put together. I can pass this around if you want. And everything from Valerie's books is within the language of dance work and probably common to what other things I've been doing. So I'll just put a couple down here and a couple down here. And if you want to sort of look at those stories at the same time, you can do that. I also have some extra motif.
from Valerie.
Yes, Ilene did a cut and paste from
65.
and from these.
Tina, let's be real clear about what resources we're using, just so everybody really knows what we're talking about here.
Okay.
And let me get it down.
So this is cut and pasted from here.
Yes. Okay. Just so you know, can I have everyone's eyes up here, please? Can everybody give me an eye hug, please?
I didn't get one of these.
We're making a copy because there's only 10 and there's 11 people here. Yeah.
Oh, so this.
No.
This, Charlotte. This sample packet is cut and paste from these books. Just so that you know. These are.
Let me say a little bit about that.
67.
Yeah, let me say a little bit about that, Tina. So when I, so when I first started studying limbs,
these were the textbooks that we used. That was my first introduction to motif.
And how come
I stopped using those in the
Very.
70s.
Up to the moment.
2004.
And now she's going to talk about your source, I think, aren't you?
I don't have that.
Okay. So also, I was gonna.
I've got 3 copies here that we
Okay.
can
So we
share.
have some sources here too that we got from Janis, which was really the last booklet that I was able to get from Lynn's that had a kind of a curriculum of motif, and I think it's still the last one that we have. So those are our 3.
We've been waiting for Charlotte.
Right.
I know. I'm tired of Charlotte.
Charlotte was the one that got going with the way it was, and that was so many years ago.
And I also will take the liberty of pointing out that there is a revision of your move coming out, which also has some new things, which is important to keep in mind.
And also using Vera's dance dynamics too, her phrasing booklet.
Right.
I also have some motif at a glance, if you want to look at those, they're here as well, so you can grab those. Janice, I don't have your work, I've not seen it, so I'm just going to depend on you and whoever has that in front of them to bring that out. I hope that I can get a copy of that.
Janice, do you want a copy of it?
Well, do I have a copy of that? No, look at
That's all right. You want to look at your own work? Okay, so I personally don't have a preference of what resource we start with.
Yeah.
So, which, you know,
Should we start with the oldest and work towards the most recent? Because if things have changed considerably, then do we even want to?
if you want to start with the old stuff, is that going to, I
I
don't know.
just think we should be aware of it's our choice where to start, that's all. So-
Yeah, I think that's
so,
fine.
what do you think is the easiest, and what do you think is the most respectful, and what's going to get the work done? Anybody have any opinions about that besides me and Tina?
And do we have to start with
How many
choice?
people are using Valor Test and all that stuff here?
You know, the books aren't available, so I don't know.
Well, we're all using parts of it, because
Right.
it all overlaps.
Yeah.
I also just, as you're thinking about this, I also just sort of want to remind you that we're walking to the edge of the Grand Canyon to see what's there. Right. So, you know, so we're just taking in a view at this point. Ready?
So let's start with some list. Should we spin a coin?
Should we get a spinner? Yes. Or should we just start with concepts? Why do we need to start with one particular source? Can we just start with concepts and adding them up, bring them up?
Well, I'll throw one up that's always been a difficulty for me because I used to be a lava notation teacher and then I was a Lindahl person, and that's I'm not altogether sure in terms of hands remove and the language of dance work is all of the space harmony symbols. Because when I use them and when I do them as analysis, style analysis, teaching, creative, motif structure, in teaching I use them based on what I could like to call, I use them based on the space harmony concepts. So that if I say side high, I'm talking about within the context of the planes. And I know in lava notation, they're defined, the ground base is 45 degrees. And so when I read a motif, I'm reading it differently than a lava notation person may be reading it, because I'm not sure whether you're using the space harmony symbols related to lava notation. So ground base, all the space harmony symbols are a completely different context for me.
You mean the direction symbols?
The direction symbols. The direction symbols.
She interprets them.
I interpret them via
in
space harmony.
As though they're in the
Octahedron, or cubes,
Okay,
planes,
so if I write
in the
this,
crystal forms.
if I write this, does that capture what you're asking?
Almost.
That's one of the only ones that does.
Maybe.
Where is side high?
That's one of the ones where we agree on that symbol.
Make it side high. Make it where is side high?
Where is side
But, and I want to add
The
to
last
what,
time I ever did anything was at Echo 25 years ago.
I'd like
I
to
stopped
add-
after that.
I'd like to add to what Janis said to that is that for me, this implies that I look at these symbols and I see them as motion description, not as destination description. And that's a big problem.
So write a symbol with an arrow, a motion versus a destination.
Well,
Right, but I guess we're talking about is
would
what's
you
the
guys agree to let me moderate?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, not a guy, but I will.
Sorry, ladies and men. Okay, so can we use both of those symbols as some that we're looking at? Because it's going to bring up the problem, because the place middle symbol does place middle also up there, because that'll bring up the problem of difference and variation.
Yeah, I think it's partly what you were talking about, and I'm trying to remember exactly how you phrased it, which was so well said earlier about the
Motion versus
no, about the basis, like when you look at this, or what's the ground base, what's
application.
the understanding, the standard.
What is the
What is the
standard?
standard, what is
What is
this, the default, that's what I'm trying to say.
meaning
What's the
of
default
this,
meaning
like,
in motif
of that
of the direction?
in motif notation?
And I think we have to recognize right away that in language of dance, the direction symbols are the same analysis as Eshkar Bachman, not Laban's construct. It is not related to space harmony. That is a special construct.
But also, side high in language of dance is not necessarily interpreted in the way it is in a structure. Can we agree to use the word lava notation or motif notation as opposed to structure? Is that okay? I'm going to say lava notation and motif notation as part of a bigger thing. All right. So in lava, side high in lava notation means a specific place, but does it, and that place is different than it is in space harmony, which is a little harder. Now, there's a third interpretation, and that is that there's this area of side highness, that there's a broader area, or in language of dance, side high, exactly the same interpretation.
Charlotte, let me say something before Ann speaks.
One thing at a time, Charlotte.
Before Ann speaks, can I say that we realize that there is that difference that needs to be discussed about that. We know what it's based on, that it's based on a circle versus a plane. But can we just get them up here and say, okay, we have the same symbol, but not exactly the same meaning?
Right.
And then here, we have the same symbol and exactly the same meaning. And then if we can just keep moving on, get through a lot of stuff that way, then we can come back and have these discussions about, exactly.
Yeah, we're just trying to get them up. Oh, I was going to put them the other way so we have more room.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Jimmyle, the other point that came up, Jackie was saying that it's motion and not reliable at the point. Did I understand you?
Yes. Right.
So is the symbol motion or destination?
Right.
I think we're talking about.
Right,
as
so
a
this is
default.
related to this.
As a standard.
But we
Does that
put it
mean-
down here, excuse me, Tina, so we put it down as a separate thing to talk about. We all know it's related.
Do you want me to do this?
Do direction signs are they interpreted as?
Will that
As
be?
direction signs interpreted as progression, or are they interpreted as destination, or are they interpreted as leaving a place? It's another. You know what I'm talking about? I know you're looking at me, but I'm asking because I know that there is nothing about leaving. But
Our concept, which I'm putting over here in this column. That's our concept that we're looking at. And we have the same meaning, but different symbols. We have this, or we have this. So this goes over here. You see what I'm doing? I have a concept, the same meaning, but different symbols, and these are the symbols that I have. And that's what I'm trying to map.
Okay, great.
Okay, and
The plain line to us means and action, not any. You are not given total freedom. And this, of course, is always debatable, but in the context of what is happening, you do an action. If you're lying on the floor and there's an action, it's probably not going to be jumping. Main activity and another action is